Good evening and welcome to India Global, your one-stop shop for all of the top developments of the week, which affect India but are also huge stories around the world. I'm Vishnu. Shom, the headlines. 2 years of Taliban rule in Afghanistan. Where is Afghanistan now? A grim deja vu for the women of Afghanistan. No school, no college, no jobs for women, forced marriages and trafficking on the rise. In Pakistan, outrage after Christians were attacked, churches torched, homes vandalized over blasphemy. The clergy allege a delayed response and they are demanding justice. A coup in Niger in Africa, West African bloc is now preparing for military action. The West African nations meet to finalize possible action. We'll tell you what this is all about. China's Xi Jinping will attend the Brics summit in South Africa. Prime Minister Modi and President Xi likely to meet at the Johannesburg summit. An expansion of Brics is on the agenda at the summit next week. Afghanistan's Taliban government are celebrating their second anniversary of the takeover of their country. The collapse of the international security grid, the pullout of international forces and the demolition of what was a promising democracy has been one of the saddest international events. Women have borne the brunt of the transition. What is happening in the country is nothing short of gender apartheid. I'm joined now by a very special guest, Shukriya Barakzai, a former Afghan legislator and diplomat. She was part of the 2003 Loya Jirga, a body which passed the constitution after the fall of the Taliban. In 2004, she was elected to the Volesi Jirga, the lower house of the erstwhile National Assembly of Afghanistan. She's also served as Afghanistan's ambassador to Norway. Shukriya Barakzai, thank you very much for being with us. Firstly, let's talk about the status of women in Afghanistan. Education, which was once such an important part, not too many years back, seems to have disappeared. Legal rights for women seems to have disappeared. And the status of women in Afghanistan continues to suffer. Is that perhaps your biggest concern?
Hello, thank you for having me. It's not only the biggest concern, it's the main concern. Where is the Afghan people rights? I mean the basic rights. Where are the people in Afghanistan, inside of the Afghanistan, whom they are? And how and where is the definition of that citizen? So the lack of civic space for women and also for men as well. And the brutality of the Taliban, if you see from 2021 August till 2023, it's more than 50 different verbal and written decree comes where limitizing and supervising the women's rights, particularly the women's space, economically, socially, morally. So when girls don't have the right to educate, when universities are closed, when the TV presenter shouldn't, in some of the provinces, the newest decree is that even the woman voice shouldn't come out from the media. So already their faces covered when they are on the media and TV presenters. So beauty salons are been closed. Public parks are closed. Women cannot walk and go even for a basic work without male member of company. Government are not hiring women employees, even they removed women and erased women from entire governmental system. International organizations not allowed to hire women, and women are not working anymore with international organization. NGOs, where it was being led and run by women, they forced that they should introduce a male member of their family or someone. Otherwise, they were not allowed to work. So now you can see, I don't know how I can more describe to say, or to give a picture, where are Afghanistan? Half of population.
Is it your concern, Ms. Brics, that this is a new normal which the world is looking at as something which cannot be changed? And it's if the world accepts this as the new normal that the problems of Afghanistan will only increase. It is not normal, and the world needs to be reminded that what is in Afghanistan now is wrong.
Of course, what is in Afghanistan, it's wrong. The decision bringing back in power Taliban was a wrong decision, were made by US. How we can say having women in a large prison with the name of country, and that's right and correct. This is absolutely wrong. How in 21st century we could say as a global village, as a democracy, as a country where 20 years NATO, US stand with us, they work, they pay their life, and it was highly costly for Afghans, life and time. It's the same nation, the same people. How we can say today was wrong or yesterday was wrong? No, today is wrong, because this is not the demands of Afghan people, the people of Afghanistan, and the resistant force of women's, where every day in different part of the country, despite of lack of international lenses to make a news about Afghanistan, women are raising their voices, and the strong resistance and the most civil resistance in the globe, and the most innocent one is continuing by the brave women in Afghanistan against the Taliban.
Ma'am, let me ask you this. India has been one of your closest friends. Historically, that's been the case. India finds itself in a very difficult situation and having to talk to the Taliban as well, because unless India does that, then getting aid across to Afghanistan, helping to fund some of the existing hospitals becomes a problem. So in a sense, it's a pragmatic decision that New Delhi has been forced to take. What role do you see of New Delhi going forward?
I think New Delhi from the very beginning, they follow what was the crowd, global crowd was, and their perspective was after Doha agreement with the Taliban. But right now, I think India is using their own leverage, if there is something in the name of leverage, because Taliban are very close to Pakistan, and you know the relation between Pakistan and India was always grumpy. So and the Afghans would pay most of the time that price of being good friends of India. Right now, I think it's important for the India to keep close contact and to continue their humanitarian aid direct with the people of Afghanistan. We do appreciate the opportunities for the young scholars from India, from Afghanistan, that they are studying in India. And I hope the Indian government will take care of them, because right now, for those scholars, Afghanistan is not the right place to go. Some of them would just been killed just because they study in India, because some mentality still among the Taliban and Taliban supporters are very and extremely anti-Indian. So it's important for the India to keep balance. Because we believe governments are coming and going, the nation are non-existent. So they should take any decision where they could be and showing clearly that they are with the nation of Afghanistan, they are with the Afghans rather than Taliban. So giving candy to the Taliban is not the way, it's not the case. Taliban will not change their policy towards women. So as much as world ask Taliban for reform, that much they pressurize the women in Afghanistan.
Ma'am, is it your sense, and this is my final question, is it your sense that Afghanistan is essentially being run by Pakistan's ISI?
That is absolutely clear. Pakistan are taking decision on behalf of Taliban. That's not something new. The creature of the Taliban was Pakistan. So how I can say right now they're no one? If you see all the statements from the very beginning, that was Pakistan was promising that they will fix, they will bring the Taliban and they will fix. And that's why if you see every single special representative for Afghanistan, first they are meeting in Pakistan. And even if you see during the Doha agreement, the special envoy for that, Dr. Khalizad, he always was traveling Doha, Pakistan, in Kabul. So that's clear. When Islamabad is and Rawalpindi is the most powerful one, so no one liked to talk with Kabul, and that's how it is till today.
That is a frightening reality. But ma'am, our hearts are always with the Afghan people.
A very sad reality.
It is a sad reality.
I hope Afghanistan will be the country where the people of Afghanistan deserve to show again their stand on the international arena.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your concern. We in India entirely share that concern with you. Thank you very much indeed, ma'am. Shukriya Brics, a former Afghan legislator and diplomat, speaking to us. We were talking about Pakistan, where several churches have been torched. In Pakistan's Faisalabad, a mob targeted a Christian colony in Punjab, Pakistan. The Pakistani mob attacked Christians over alleged blasphemy. Christian homes were vandalized. There have been no casualties, however, but 6,000 troops have been deployed, with nearly 150 arrests having been made.
3 days after Pakistan celebrated its 77th Foundation Day, a Christian locality in the district of Faisalabad in Pakistan's East Punjab was stormed by a mob of Muslims. Several churches torched, a home demolished, all in response to allegations of blasphemy.
सबसे पहले मैंने रेड भेजी है। हम रेड करते हैं, इंशाल्लाह बंदा पकड़ते हैं, मीन टाइम पर्चा भी देते हैं, ताकि पर्चा भी हो जाएगा, वो बंदा भी पकड़ा जाएगा। तो हम आपको यहीं पे बैठ के बता देंगे कि जहाँ पे भी आप सब होंगे हम वहाँ पे बता देंगे। मुफ्ती साहब हैं, बाकी उलमा किराम को इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं, उन तमाम को हम बता देंगे कि जी हमने ये काम जिसकी जिम्मेदारी ली थी वो हमने कर दिया।
The rampage began when reports surfaced claiming torn pages of the Quran with alleged blasphemous content written on them were discovered near Jaranwala's Isanagri area. Some Muslims living nearby accused a local Christian, Raja Amir, and his friend of desecrating pages of the Quran, triggering one of the worst spells of violence against the minority community in recent years.
एक दो या तीन बंदों ने उसका किया है नुकसान, जो भी बेहुरमती की है, बाकी लोगों का नुकसान ना किया जाए। और हम अपील करते हैं इंतज़ामिया से और पाकिस्तानी पुलिस से, और जो भी इसके जो हैं वज़ीर आला पंजाब नोटिस लें और जल्द जल्द उसको गिरफ्तार करके कैफ़े करदार तक पहुंचाया जाए।
More than 6,000 police and paramilitary troops have been deployed to control the mob violence, even as Pakistan's Christian community reels in shock over the attacks. Close to 150 arrests have been made, and the probe is on. Pakistan's caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haq Khakkar expressed solidarity with the Christian community in a tweet. But Christian theologists in the country blame the Muslim clergy for fanning the violence.
From 9 o'clock it began, and they continued to ransack the churches. We heard that rangers will be called, but so far there is no rangers at the scene. Situation is very, very tense at the moment.
In Karachi, protesters led by Bishop of the Diocese demanded justice.
Government of Pakistan must take swift and effective measures to address the situation, provide assistance to those who are affected.
फैसलाबाद में आज हमारे मसीही घरों को जलाया गया, हमारे चर्चेस पे हमला किया गया, हमारी मुकद्दस चीज़ों को मतलब इस तरह फेंका गया, रौंदा गया, और ये आज कोई नई बात नहीं है.
The United States too expressed concern about the violent incident and urged Pakistan to investigate the attack.
Violence or the threat of violence is never an acceptable form of expression, and we urge Pakistani authorities to conduct a full investigation into these allegations and call for calm for all of those involved.
Christians constitute a minuscule minority of 1.27% in Pakistan and have faced discrimination and persecution. The latest incident brings back the focus on the issue of blasphemy that remains one of the most sensitive topics in Pakistan, where even mere allegations of committing the crime can trigger violence. NDTV Bureau Report.
In an exclusive conversation with NDTV, the third American of Indian origin to launch his presidential bid, Harshvardhan Singh, opened up about his outlook on the American role in the Ukraine war, his view on India-US ties, and his anti-vaxxer approach to COVID-19. My first question to you, Democrats have labeled you as being Trump on steroids. How would you respond?
I mean, it's the truth. It's because I've been very strong on many of the policies that matter to Americans today. I've been very strong on medical freedom, which has come under attack since COVID has plagued the world. I've been very strong against big tech censorship, which essentially has shut down all voices that don't come from the left. And I've been very strong in talking about ending the funding for the Ukrainian war, which I believe is devastating stability across this entire world. And I do not want World War III. So Democrats call me Trump on steroids because of my strength, and they're scared of me.
You would be aware of India's foreign policy, where India has essentially balanced our foreign interests. We continue to import Russian oil. In fact, we've expanded the import of Russian oil because it's India first, and we have a huge population. America has a problem with that policy. But how would you sort of look at what India is doing? Because we have 1 billion plus, and we need to meet our energy requirements, which are huge.
I think that U.S.-India relations is a key part of global trade and global stability moving forward. I think currently about 40% of global trade goes through the South China Sea. And to counter and to ensure that you have open and free trade, U.S.-India relations and other partnerships such as the Quad, working with Japan and Australia, I think are key to future trade, as well as keys to an expansion of positive relations across all spectrums. And so I see that there is an advantage to India to maintain very strong and persisting and greater relations moving forward. Even recently, I believe India signed the Artemis Accords, yes, where you're going to have further positive relations expected between U.S., India, West, Japan, and the others.
If you became president of the United States, what would you do for India-U.S. relations?
In a U.S.-India, underneath my administration, I think it would be very clear that the positive aspects of gaining further economic relations with India would be realized. I think one of my main focuses is to bring core manufacturing home. We saw during COVID how due to too many economic eggs being in certain parts of the global community, we had certain types of limitations on what were available. I think having a more diverse approach to manufacturing, making sure core manufacturing returns to the homeland here in America would be beneficial not only for the U.S. but also for the globe at large.
Mr. Singh, you're unvaccinated for COVID, is that right?
Yes, that is correct. I'm the only candidate for president who is unvaccinated.
How would you respond to those that say that sets a pretty poor example, considering that millions have lost their lives in America and elsewhere to COVID?
I think that the exact opposite is true. We're seeing more and more proof of harmful impacts and effects for those that decided to follow the propaganda, which was pushing for things that were experimental and untested. I think that, if anything, it's very concerning to see the number of people that have died at young ages. There seems to be a lot of issues.
Do you believe that America is ready to see a U.S. president with an Indian origin?
I don't think it bothers anyone in America. I think that the fundamental concerns for the American population are, do you have the strong leadership capability to ensure that you're not going to bend knee to crony capitalism or things that will actually limit the rights of Americans? And will you help shepherd the country in a good direction that helps all populations move in the right direction? America is on the right not racist at all. On the political right, America is most focused on those that have strong character, that have conviction, and that have the right values.
A final question to you, and this isn't just restricted to your politics or your party, but the growing role of the diaspora in the United States, not just industry, but also in politics. What does it say about the community?
Well, the Indian American community is a very genuine and authentic community. We focus on very strong family values. We believe in education is superior to almost anything, that knowledge is the goal, and that with these fundamental values, we integrate very well in almost any part of the world. Here in America.
All right, that was Harshvardhan Singh speaking to me earlier on in the week. Well, ECOWAS, the West African bloc, is preparing for a full-blown military intervention after the coup that took place in Niger. Now, this happened nearly 3 weeks ago. President Mohamed Bazoum of Niger was held captive by his own presidential guard. He was later removed in an attempted coup, the latest in a series of military takeovers in this politically volatile and economically unstable West African territory. The takeover comes as a blow to the last bastion of democracy and human rights in the troubled region and has major geopolitical ramifications for global powers like Russia and China, which have major stakes in the country. Here's a report that decodes the coup and how it affects geopolitics in the region.
The Niger coup is the 9th coup or attempted power grab in the troubled West Africa region, which has now gathered the reputation of a coup belt. Let's try and understand this particular area. So this is where Niger is in the ECOWAS, a Sahel region of West Africa. It's surrounded by Libya, Chad, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Mali and Algeria. All these countries have faced coups at some point in the past decade or so. Nigeria, of course, faced coup back in the 1960s. But the fact is, why is this region so vulnerable to military coups and takeovers, particularly in the past decade? Let's try and decode that for you. Experts have pointed out that all these areas are rich in mineral resources, which is why they become points of political contention. For example, Niger is rich in coal, uranium, gold, iron ore. Going across to other countries like Burkina Faso that faced a coup back in 2022 is rich in gold, zinc and copper. In fact, other countries that surround Niger like Chad, which witnessed a coup back in 2021, is also rich in mineral resources like uranium, titanium and bauxite, a huge point of global political contention. Mali, which faced a coup in 2021, is also rich in uranium, iron ore and gold. In fact, countries like Libya, which faced a huge military takeover, a coup back in 2013, is also rich in oil, natural gas and iron ore. Similarly, countries like Nigeria and Algeria also, which faced coups back in 1966 and 1965, are also rich in these mineral resources. So experts have pointed out that two aspects have contributed to the vulnerability that this region has to military takeovers. One, the unchecked exploitation of these natural resources, and secondly, foreign intervention or excessive foreign intervention. These two factors come together to create an environment of political instability in this particular region. But what really is the ECOWAS region? When was ECOWAS formed? Let's try and decode that for you. So when ECOWAS is the Economic Community of West African States, it's a bloc of 15 countries in West Africa. It was established back in 1975 and works for the development of the 400 million people that live in the region. It facilitates education for them, but the key focus remains trade. It facilitates free movement of people and goods there. It's also a peacekeeping force and has led many military interventions in times of political unrest. For example, it was instrumental in ending the huge civil war in Liberia back in the 90s. It also led the movement against the contentious president in the Gambia when there was a political resistance, political uprising there. And it is a bloc of 15 countries which also has a power to suspend member states. Now this is important because in times of such coups, if it suspends member states, it can lead to trade restrictions and also military sanctions. For example, in the case of Niger, ECOWAS has suspended the state. But let's go back to how this particular region has actually reacted to the coup in Niger. Well, ECOWAS, of course, has imposed military sanctions. It has deployed troops in Niger. But other countries, for example, Chad and Burkina Faso have also responded in their own ways. So Mali, for example, and Burkina Faso, they side with the putishists. So that is something that is their stated position. In fact, other countries like Guinea, they oppose the sanctions imposed by ECOWAS. But what is really the larger geopolitical significance? Let's try and understand that. So, well, Niger stood as the last bastion of human rights in this troubled region. All of these countries have fallen to military takeovers at some point. And the coup could also shift Russia's influence in Africa. Remember, Russia has huge stake when it comes to this region, from military deals, military coalitions to diplomatic interventions led by Russia in the past. Now, as far as India is concerned, well, the coup has happened at a time when India is looking to boost its footprint in this particular area. Now, most global powers which have financial stake or some military presence in Africa stand to lose from this particular coup. In fact, there's also a threat to China's $800 million dam project in Niger. In fact, the Niger coup could impact the lives of millions living in the West Africa region, in the economically unstable West Africa region. In fact, unemployment is also at alarmingly high rates as far as this particular region is concerned. And this particular coup also points to a trend of rising military takeovers in Africa, which is not good for the geopolitical context of this particular region.
Well, we're going to take a short break. India Global will be back next Friday at 8:30 p.m. Do stay tuned for a lot more.